Ukrainian expert Mikhail Sheitelman suggested that the reputation of the head of the Kremlin had been undermined, as he had shown his helplessness in the face of a real danger. Now there will be the Bryansk Peace instead of the Brest Peace. This is a very good pun, because until now all the Russians have pushed us somewhere, like Istanbul. Let's do it like in 2022, but we really need to offer them the Brest Peace. The Brest Peace would be the most humiliating thing for Russia that can be imagined. As you remember, Lenin, who seized power, agreed to sign it. The political strategist supported the initiative of one of his viewers. After this, Mikhail Sheitelman unexpectedly declared, "I absolutely support the idea, since over the last 24 hours I have increasingly begun to believe that yesterday's events could lead to the fall of Putin personally, not the regime, not the system, not the dictatorship in Russia, not to the emergence of some kind of democracy. But Putin's personality could come to an end as a result of our attack yesterday, because the consequences are very grave. It is very hard for him. Then the new ruler, who will sign anything, say, Kirill Dmitriev, will sign anything that is brought, if only the West will recognize him as the new president." Earlier, Sheitelman called on Ukrainians not to panic, honestly saying how the Russian offensive could end. The publicist believes that the probability of failure is high. It is quite possible that the Russian army will not only fail to achieve its goals, but will be forced to retreat. There is no need to panic here. In what sense? Millions of analysts say that Putin is doing this to gain trump cards in the negotiations. His offensive is so great. Listen, to gain these trump cards, we need to win. Our Ukrainian army is there. 880,000 people are standing in the way of the Russian aggressors, the political strategist addressed the Ukrainians. After this, Mikhail Sheitelman explained why the outcome of the Russian offensive is still unknown to anyone. Do you think that the Russians are guaranteed victory, success? They have launched a major offensive. And who said that it will not turn into a major flight, that it will not be a retreat? Do you think that the Russians are guaranteed victory? Why? Because 50,000 people have arrived somewhere? We have a huge army there. Recall, Ukrainian drones struck multiple military airbases deep inside Russia on Sunday in a major operation a day before the neighbors held peace talks in Istanbul. The Russian Defense Ministry said Ukraine had launched drone strikes targeting Russian military airfields across 5 regions, causing several aircraft to catch fire. The attacks occurred in the Murmansk, Irkutsk, Ivanovo, Ryazan, and Amur regions. Air defenses repelled the assaults in all but 2 regions, Murmansk and Irkutsk, the ministry said. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelenski said 117 drones had been used to attack the Russian bases on Sunday. Russia has had very tangible losses, and justifiably so, he said. The Security Service of Ukraine said that it had hit Russian military planes worth a combined $7 billion in a wave of drone strikes on Russian air bases thousands of kilometers behind the front line. At least 41 Russian heavy bombers at 4 airbases were hit, the report said. The strikes reportedly hit Tu-95 and Tu-22 strategic bombers, which Russia uses to fire long-range missiles at Ukrainian cities. Greenpeace international environmental group activists have used a wax figure of French President Emmanuel Macron to stage an anti-Moscow protest outside of Russian embassy in Paris. The statue was stolen from the popular Grevin Wax Museum in Paris and placed outside the Russian embassy. 3 people, posing as museum employees, discreetly removed the €40,000 figure through a rear exit, concealing it under a blanket. The smiling statue was then brought to the Russian embassy and positioned beside a sign that read, "Ukraine is burning, business continues." Greenpeace France director Jean-François Juillard accused Macron of encouraging French companies to continue trading with Russia. Juillard said Macron should be the first, among European leaders to end trade contracts with Russia. It should be noted that France has been among the leading supporters of Kiev since Russia's full-fledged invasion in February 2022. The United Kingdom will build new nuclear-powered attack submarines, get its army ready to fight a war in Europe, Prime Minister Keir Starmer said Monday, as part of a boost to military spending designed to send a message to Moscow and Washington. According to Associated Press, Starmer told workers and journalists at a Navy shipyard in Scotland that Britain cannot ignore the threat posed by Russia, as he pledged to undertake the most sweeping changes to Britain's defences since the collapse of the Soviet Union more than 3 decades ago. Like other NATO members, the UK has been reassessing its defence spending since Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine in February 2022. The government announced military plans in response to a strategic defence review commissioned by Starmer and led by George Robertson, a former UK Defence Secretary and NATO Secretary-General. It's the first such review since 2021, and lands in a world shaken and transformed by Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine in 2022. And by the re-election of President Donald Trump last year. Months after Britain's last major defence review was published in 2021, then Prime Minister Boris Johnson said with confidence that the era of fighting big tank battles on European landmass are over. 3 months later, Russian tanks rolled into Ukraine. Starmer's centre-left Labour Party government says it will accept all 62 recommendations made in the review, aiming to help the UK confront growing threats on land, air, sea, and in cyberspace. Measures include increasing production of submarines and weapons and learning the lessons of Ukraine, which has rapidly developed its drone technology to counter Moscow's forces and even hit targets deep inside Russia. The government said the UK will also establish a cyber command to counter daily Russia-linked attacks on Britain's defences. Monday's announcements include building up to 12 nuclear-powered, conventionally armed submarines under the AUKUS partnership with Australia and the United States. The government also says it will invest £15 billion in Britain's nuclear arsenal, which consists of missiles carried on a handful of submarines. Details of those plans are likely to be kept secret. The government will also increase conventional Britain's weapons stockpiles with up to 7,000 UK-built long-range weapons. Starmer said rearming would create a defense dividend of well-paid jobs, a contrast to the post-Cold War peace dividend that saw Western nations channel money away from defense into other areas. Defense Secretary John Healey has said the changes would send a message to Moscow and transform the country's military following decades of retrenchment, though he said he does not expect the number of soldiers, currently at a 2-century low, to rise until the early 2030s. Healey said plans for defense spending to hit 2.5% of national income by 2027 a year are on track, and that there's no doubt it will hit 3% before 2034.
I can announce today that we're going to build at least 6 new munitions factories in the United Kingdom, generating over 1,000 jobs. We will build thousands of new long-range weapons in the United Kingdom to boost European deterrence, supporting around 800 more jobs. We will defend our homeland by investing in our air and missile defence to better protect these islands. We will create a hybrid Royal Navy, blending drones with warships, submarines and aircraft to patrol the North Atlantic and beyond, supporting thousands of brilliant shipbuilding jobs, including right here in Govan. Under our AUKUS alliance with the US and Australia, we will now deliver up to 12 attack submarines protecting Britain's waters, scaling up the industrial base in Barrow and all along the supply chain to deliver a new sub every 18 months, again creating thousands of jobs. We will also invest in world-leading drone capabilities and battlefield technology, in better kit for our warriors abroad, and better housing for them and their families at home. And finally, I can confirm today that we are investing £15 billion in our sovereign warhead programme to secure our deterrent for decades to come, creating 9,000 jobs and thousands more in supply chains across the country.